now thank you so much, Mr. Ahmed Al-Noubi and Mr. Ramzi Al-Masri for such an informative session. We will now have a panel moderated by Lilian Magdy with the topic Governance in the Digital Era, Challenges in Disclosure, Ethics and Transparency.
Good morning, everyone. Sabah al khair. Thank you for being here in this amazing panel. Well, actually, today's panel is around navigating transparency and disclosures and the ethics. So hopefully you will enjoy our panel. It will be a very interactive and interesting panel. First, before we start, I would like to introduce myself and also to introduce our expertise. My name is Lilian Magdy. I'm head of internal audit in an edutech company in UAE. I have more than 17 years of experience in the risk and advisory, and also I'm certified for the examiner, GRC, and ISO risk management, and certified agile auditor. I would like to introduce Amina. Ms. Amina Al-Kenany, she's the head of corporate governance in CIB Egypt, and also she has more than 20 years of experience in the corporate governance and in the banking sector. She has masters in the finance. Thank you, Amina, for being here. Also, I would like to introduce Mr. Tomell. He's the co-founder and the co-chairman of the association, of the Association of the Middle East and Africa Association, and also he's the managing partner of Caliber Advisory. He's more than in Saudi Arabia. He has more than 17 years of experience in the GRC. Thank you, Tomell, for being here. And also, I would like to introduce Yasmine El-Abd. She is the head of corporate governance, chief compliance and corporate governance in ADCB, and also she's the board secretary for ADCB Bank. She has a master's in the corporate governance. Thank you so much, Yasmine, for being here as well. Thank you all for being us here. So first, my first question is with Yasmine. Since you are you have a great experience in the corporate governance and also you're the secretary of the board of directors, we would like to hear from you what are the pros and cons, and also what could be the opportunities of having the digital transformation in the boardroom?
Thank you so much, Lilian. And actually, it's my honor and pleasure to be part of this panel. Before I start, I would like to express my gratitude to FIG Solutions and especially Mr. Bishoy Abed for giving me this opportunity to contribute in the GRC Summit and share my knowledge and experiences. Before I start, I believe digital governance is now a must in a world where technology is evolving daily and with the dynamic constantly changing working environment. So the traditional corporate governance practices are now not an option anymore. Before I list the pros and for the digital governance framework, let me give you a snapshot 5 years ago, and I believe Amina will be very acquainted with this. So when I was first appointed as Chief Compliance Officer and Secretary of the Board for ADCB Egypt, here comes the situation. I'll talk in Arabic a bit to express how painful it was. One شهر before the board meeting, we start arranging. نبعت ايميلز لكل stakeholders to collect the board submissions. ايه اللي بيحصل بقى؟ بيجي لنا dispersed unstandardized تماما agenda items. نبدأ بقى the work, the administrative work of rearranging all the documents, standardization up to the board standards. بعد كده نبدأ نبعت emails للboard members with the agenda items. طبعا some emails bounce back due to capacity limitations, email capacity limitations. نخلص البروسيس دي. نيجي بقى طبعا more painful experience. This is 1 week before the board when we gather all the corporate governance task force. نبدأ بقى printing tens of thousands of papers and physical files. Unbelievable طبعا. Arranging بقى physical files, utilizing human resources, utilizing photocopiers, killing thousands of trees. طبعا ده حاجة يعني كانت مريعة جدا. Using all these quantities of paper. And then طبعا all this, after all this, I have to ensure بقى security of my documents. So we have to seal the envelopes, send them hand to hand, door to door to each board member. طبعا it was unbelievable experience. نيجي بقى at the day of the board, more painful بقى. At the day of the board you have to keep 3 or 4 extra files because some of the board members leave their files at home. So you have to have additional files. Moving بقى after the board, I find myself left in an empty boardroom full of physical, confidential information, data that needs to be destructed immediately to ensure the security and the confidentiality of our board decisions. فطبعا imagine the situation. قلت طبعا أحكي بالعربي يعني to visualize how painful this was. So I believe طبعا moving towards digital governance is no option for all organizations now. On a board level, on a board member level, يعني I'll pinpoint كده some pros. As a board member طبعا you can set your agenda ahead 1 year ahead. So you can book your holidays, book the time slots for the board meetings, ensure ان انت available at the board at each board meeting. الحاجة التانية برضو المهمة جدا that you can actually you will be able as a board member to perform your role regardless بقى of the geographical constraints, regardless of time constraints. So you can be seated at one side of the globe and conduct a board meeting virtually and perform your role and responsibility as a board member very effectively. طبعا having access to all this quantity of reports, board decisions, board materials will allow you as a board member to make more informed board decisions. And finally, but most importantly, طبعا enhancing the communication between board members and the chairperson as well as the senior management. So having a board portal is a must. It changed the life of lots of organizations on a board level وفي نفس الوقت on a management committees level يعني. And طبعا enhanced the oversight on the corporate governance framework.
So by having this board portal, it allows to address all the pain points that you have mentioned at the beginning of the discussion regarding the physical of the documents that you have, the long time of taking the approvals, signatures, and all this stuff. By having this digital transformation for the boardroom, it reduces the time and the effort and more security.
Yes,
Address all the pain points.
For sure, actually, and on an organization level, it reduced by operational expenditures through less consumption, less travel expenses, better utilizing human resources, canceling redundant jobs and reallocating these staff in smarter jobs that will enhance the efficiency of the organization. And يعني ده mainly on an organizational level. طبعا the record keeping requirements, having digital archives on the ground, strengthening governance accountability.
Great experience. Thank you. Okay. Since we already discussed the governance from board perspective and how the digital transformation add value to the board level, also, Amina, since you have also a great experience in the corporate governance and in the banking sector, we would like to dig more in the ethics. So, since now we are in the digital era, some claims that says that in this era, the ethics is much more important than the governance. So I know you will comment on this, so we would like to hear from you, what is your comment and feedback and how to do the right balance?
Well, thank you, Lilian, for your question. First, صباح الخير جميعاً, and I would like to thank FIG Solution, Bishoy and his team for organizing this amazing event. It's really hard to come في آخر يوم because over the past 2 days, يعني a wealth of knowledge was shared by field experts. They raised the bar very high. So I just hope that we can add a little bit of benefit from today's panel. And Lilian, back to your question, and thank you for saying that some claim that ethics is more important than governance in today's digital era. I totally understand that argument and that ethic is crucial, especially in the evolving digital era of today. But I firmly believe that governance and ethics are equally important. You cannot say that one is more important than the other. They are equally important, they are interdependent, they complement each other. And let me elaborate on this perspective that we need first to define what we mean by governance and what we mean by ethics. Governance is basically what we all know. It's the set of rules, regulations, policies, procedures, laws, the frameworks that govern the institution and guide its decision-making framework. Ethics, on the other hand, is your internal compass that directs you towards knowing what is right and what is wrong. Your moral principles, the things, the values we were raised to uphold, integrity, transparency, fairness, respect for others, all these values that we all uphold, and we all we brag on upholding these values. So one of my core argument is that you cannot have one without the other. You cannot have governance without the ethics, and you cannot have ethics without the governance. Now with the AI, and I'm not a tech person at all خالص يعني, وماليش قوي في الحاجات الجديدة اللي طالعة, بس always hearing chatbots, blockchains, ChatGPT, Perplexity, DeepSeek, every day a new solution or a new tool is coming out. طيب, do we know the source of the data being used for these tools? No, yet, يعني not yet. And أنا هنا, I'm talking about Egypt, I'm not talking about any other part of the world. I'm talking about the Egyptian market. We don't know the data being fed into these tools. You know, my understanding of the formula, my humble understanding, I'm not a tech person, that the formula is data in, something process it, whether it's a system or tool or whatever tech guys call it, and you have an output and a form of a decision making and a report or whatever. This formula, if garbage in, is garbage out. Sorry, excuse my French. But you have no control at the time over the data being fed into these. Are these data biased? The integrity of the data, the quality of the data, the accuracy of the data, you don't have any visibility. You're just using it and using the output of those data in your decision making and in your reporting. So you have no control over the output. It's being done by a certain algorithm. This algorithm might be biased by the person feeding the tool. okay, we have this level of the data integrity, we have confidence in the accuracy of the data, and we check this. Then you come to the level of data privacy. Do you have the user's consent to use these data that are being fed into those tools? Again, this will influence your decision. You have all the consents and all the data privacy requirements are in place and are checked. طيب, what if, and we as a board or as organization, we decided to rely on those AI tools in our decision making and our reporting system. What if a decision is made by one, suggested by one of those tools, and the decision is bad? Who's accountable? Is it the board? I don't know. Is it the tool? We don't know. Is it the coder of the tool? We still don't know. We still don't have governance of AI, and we still don't have the capabilities to cope. The pace is really, really fast, and the regulators, even if they issue governing procedures or guidelines or laws or whatever to control AI, will it be, if it's out today, tomorrow you will find new updates. The pace is really high. The regulators, will the regulators be able to cope with this pace? It's very fast and it's changing. Can we say, no, we will not embrace or we will not adopt this technology? Yes, we simply can, but we don't want to, because we will see ourselves like companies like Kodak or BlackBerry. They're nowhere to be seen now. But we have to go with the flow, and we have to adopt the new technologies, but we need to be very wise, and we need to think to embed the ethics in the fabric of the governance framework. So we all want to reach success, but organizations who will wisely embrace the ethics and the governance framework, they will sustain success. And we just don't want to reach success and then we go deep. We want to sustain the success we achieve. And this, I believe, will be achieved by having an ethical governance of AI. You cannot separate ethics from governance, and neither governance from ethics.
Yeah, I agree with you. And as an experience in my company, EduTech company, 2 years back, we've done a risk assessment, and we have a data science department. And we were discussing the risks of the AI because we're using Power BI data tools, Tableau, all these Alteryx, all these data analytics tools. So the company has developed a very good, to govern the AI ethics, we have developed an AI ethics charter, and it's published on our corporate website. To govern the ethics of the AI, it consists of 9 key principles like accountability, transparency, fairness. Fairness, which means that the AI tools that we are using as a company, it needs to make sure that there is no bias, that it's fair with the human capital, it has a good diversity, it don't bias to a gender or a specific nationality. It includes also safety. It's a list of 9 principles that as a tech company, we need to be aligned and compliant with these key principles to govern the AI tools. And also we give awareness to the employees how to use the AI tool ethically, like don't take the email copy-paste, don't disclose any confidential information. All this is an ongoing awareness that we always make sure as an internal audit department and with the collaboration with the legal and the compliance to make sure that the employees are aware how to use it. We're not saying don't use it. Go ahead and use it, and we need to use it wisely, ethically, and within the approved list of AI tools by the company.
But you have to keep this framework constantly updated because, like I said, the rapid pace of technological advancement is insane. Yeah. And you have to regularly keep updating this framework in order to stay abreast of what's happening in the landscape around you.
Yeah, totally agree with you. So yes, so for the next Tomell, also we would like to hear from you in holistic way for the GRC professionals, how they can be ahead and be more efficient and effective in the rapid time of the digital transformation.
Great, thank you so much. First of all, it's a true privilege and honor to be here. Thank you, Bishoy, for the invitation. I'm really enthralled by how robust this conference has been. It's truly an extraordinary set of 3 days that we've been here. The quantum of information, the quality of information is really, really stellar. It's a real privilege and honor to share the stage with my fellow panelists and to be here. In many ways, this has been a very seminal moment for me personally. The first time I came to Egypt was when I was 21 years old. And actually, it was here in Sharm el-Sheikh. And it was actually, I'm born and raised in, if you couldn't tell by my accent, I'm American. I'm born and raised in Chicago. When I decided to leave my country and start a life in the Middle East, I was at a fork in the road when I was 21. And I had a job opportunity to stay in the Middle East and an opportunity to go back to the United States. And it was actually here in Sharm that I chose to stay in the Middle East. And now, 17 years later, I'm privileged to call the Middle East my home. So it's a true honor to be here again in Egypt, and thank you. Having said that, to your question, in many ways, the presentation that preceded us was the perfect culmination of the point of the challenges that we are facing today. Let me just take a quick poll in the audience, if I can, please. How many of you would say that you are an expert in IT, cybersecurity, DevOps, AI? Raise your hand if you feel that you are a real expert in that field. Okay, we have one or two. So that's the point. I myself am very technically challenged. I mean, I can barely turn on my computer. You know, I don't know how to do the I'm like, show me how to work Excel. Let's start there. You know, how do I use Word? I mean, I'm still there. And technology is so rapidly disseminating itself and infiltrating all aspects of our lives. We are GRC practitioners. We are not cybersecurity experts, and God bless them. God bless those professionals that actually understand those things at a technical level, because for me personally, that's way out of my field, right? However, as we've seen and as this conference has made clear, technology is here whether we like it or not. So what are GRC professionals who are non-technical, non-cybersecurity, DevOps, IT, AI experts, how can we effectively do our jobs if we are faced with a landscape that we ourselves don't understand? And that's where we are at. We're at that point right now where if we do not upskill ourselves and keep up with the pace of change that's happening in this area, we could very well be left behind. And as we were saying, you know, the fear of machines taking over our jobs. Well, let's face it, especially when you talk about regulatory compliance aspects, machines in many ways could probably do a job even better than the human beings. And if you look at the industrialization period, where prior to industrialization, everything was manual labor, humans were involved in a lot of manual labor. Industrialization happened, a lot of blue-collar folks lost their jobs. And then again, we're now at a seminal transformation where this technology sector is literally transforming how we think and how we can approach that. So what can we do as GRC professionals who we're not experts, right? And me personally, I personally don't, for example, don't have too much interest in all of the cybersecurity and things like that. So how are we going to navigate those changes? And I think there needs to be a real effort to innovate within the GRC space. And so I wanted to share a story with you all. So prior to, I've been an in-house GRC practitioner over the last 2 decades, and I was the former head of compliance for Careem, you know, the app, and Uber Middle East. So in that capacity as head of compliance, prior to those roles, I was in oil and gas, I was in construction, I was in all of these hands-on industries. And then all of a sudden I found myself in the tech industry where the majority of the staff are engineers, the majority of the staff are talking about things like the presentation we had previously to us, you know, how complex and technical. I mean, that presentation might as well have been in hieroglyphics for me. You know, I didn't understand any of it. But, you know, you have those, you know, situation where now I'm responsible for compliance for an organization that is speaking Chinese to me. What are we going to do? You can either stick to the traditional what you know, international best practices and, you know, standardized board governance structures, right? What's been created for the economy of the former 100 years, or we have to get creative and inventive as the economy is shifting. We cannot remain stagnant. We cannot remain reliant on the tools that we previously used, the governance structures. We have to be creative, and sometimes that means doing unconventional things that may or may not be part of an ISO standard, for example. So when I was head of compliance at Careem, one of the first things that I wanted to understand is, what don't I know, right? I know what I know, but what don't I know, right? So it was important to do that gap assessment, and the things that I focused on was sitting one-to-one with the key experts in the areas that not only I liked the least personally, but that I knew almost nothing about. And I focused on those areas, because if I'm leading a tech company and it's all about coding and, you know, all of these things, which I have no clue again, and then I'm the head of compliance, if something goes wrong, where's the finger going to get pointed to? Certainly some, forgive my speech, but some heads may roll in the IT department, but ultimately I'm in charge of managing everything GRC related to the enterprise. So if there's a data breach, if there's, you know, security errors, I'm in charge of that ultimately. So on top of doing the gap assessment, really getting involved, it requires us to come down from our ivory tower of GRC and get involved into the weeds of the organization. Really taking a hands-on, pragmatic approach by meeting with the leaders, understanding what is it that they're actually doing? How much do we actually know about what these guys are doing? And then developing new governance frameworks to make sure that we are constantly in the loop. We, meaning risk compliance professionals, governance professionals, are constantly in the loop. So what I proposed, for example, to the Executive Management Committee was that we develop a compliance InfoSec Executive Management Board subcommittee. And that entailed the head of InfoSec and myself, as well as legal, and we met on a weekly basis to discuss what is the plans, what are the issues that information security is facing, what are the new, and also sales, the business development. I needed to understand, where is the business going? What is the tech engineering department doing to support the business? And what are the new risks that are being created while this wild horse is wildly accelerating, right? Beyond in areas that I have no visibility, I have no comfort in knowing. One way to deal with it, of course, is just to look the other way. But if we are to be effective ambassadors and to make ourselves relevant in the economy of the future, we have to add value to the business as the business is undergoing this revolution. And so, even though the solution was very simple, right? Create a subcommittee between the key stakeholders, making sure that we're doing that, what you'll find is that oftentimes GRC professionals are not even a part of that discussion, right? They sideline us to the existing regulatory environment, we get comfortable with what we've known, we kind of do what we are here to do, and then we don't really stretch ourselves to make sure that we're part of the business discussions, especially in an era where these technologies are doing more and more of our second line of defense. We have to show how are we adding value to the business. And if we're not part of those discussions, if we're not being seen as actively contributing to mitigating the risks in the business as it's progressing.
So you will be easily replaceable by a robot.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. We're making ourselves redundant.
Yeah, exactly.
We have to make the case for ourselves.
I really tend to agree with you, Tomell. So change is the only constant in this world. So as compliance officers, if we did not cope with such change, familiarize ourselves, our teams, have the proper technical expertise within compliance, we will be replaceable. So I believe on a corporate governance side, on compliance side, the AI-powered decision-making will be in place very soon. So we're left with no options, either to run from it and like become redundant and stay at home or retire and bring back the fresh youngsters leading compliance with the robots, or otherwise we cope with the change.
That's right, absolutely.
Yeah, I believe we have to cope with the change, but I do not believe that the machine will replace the human. I do not believe this, because you need human oversight at the end of the day. We created the machines. Without us, there wouldn't have been a machine at the first place.
It is a strategic enabler. However,
It will
it cannot be
enable the
replaceable by human oversight.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think it also goes back to your point about ethics in governance structures. Are we ensuring that as these technologies are disseminating in the organization, is ethics even part of the discussion?
It has to be.
Right?
It
She
has.
discussed
Things
writing
will
the
get
ethics
sour,
charter.
and excuse my French, shit will hit the fan
Exactly.
if it wasn't.
Exactly. So these are critical control elements. Simple, but how much are we thinking about those things?
So Tomell, we were discussing this last night. Do you think ethics shall come as a tone from the top, or will or embedded inside from down to top?
Yeah, okay, you begin and then I'll...
We had this disagreement, me and Tomell. I see that you have to always set the tone from the top. And I'll quote an Egyptian proverb. Sorry, it's in Arabic.
It's okay.
إن كان رب البيت بالدف ضربه فشيمة أهل البيت الرقص. So it says basically if the head of the house is playing a drum, so everybody in the house will dance. So he sets the tone, or the head sets the tone, so it has to come from the top. They have to lead by example. So if my superiors and my managers and my board, they do not
Believe in
encourage
ethics.
and not only in ethics, in whatever, they do not believe in the organizational values and they do not lead by example, do not ask the juniors to follow. They will tell you, the head is not, I understand your argument that it should not be depending on people, but however, you always have to set the tone, you have to lead by example.
Yes.
Yeah, that's my point of view.
Yes, and I think that's absolutely right. Leadership is irreplaceable, right? Leadership is seminal in any context. What I lament is the unfortunate situation where the over-reliance on leadership to drive progress, ignoring the masses, right? So we've heard tone at the top, tone at the top. I always contend that it's not just tone at the top, it's also mood in the middle and groove on the ground, right? Mood in the middle. How much are you involving your middle management in raising awareness of these challenges that we've now just discussed? How much training and focus and time and attention is focused on middle management and governance to ensure that they are part of the infrastructure such that irrespective of which leader comes in, it's institutionalized into the stack of the company. You don't want leadership to simply be able to destruct or construct depending on the mood of the guy who walks in the room, right? And I think that's part of our job, right, is to make sure that whichever leader is there, whether he likes it or not, there's governance in place to serve as checks and balances. And that gets institutionalized in the middle and at the ground. So are our compliance programs, are our governance programs addressing that? Do we have insight, overview, transparency, KPIs that allow us to understand, you know, the guy in the storage facility, the guy in the warehouse, the logistics providers, the peripheral services, are we paying attention to those guys, right? It's not just the folks who are sitting in the castle, right? And I think that's our job as GRC professionals, is to fully integrate the infrastructure such that controls are there at every level of the organization. These topics are sensitized across the organization, and it's a whole of company strategy as opposed to simply direct leadership. And I agree with you. It's not, leadership is important, but we have to focus on the whole company.
Yeah, for sure. But I disagree on something you just said, that the folks in the castle. I believe that effective management should not be separated in a separate castle. They should be interacting with the middle management, even the frontliners. It's very effective to have an interactive, even if it's a non-executive board, independent, getting the employee sentiment and interacting with the employees and having constant engagement with all managerial levels is very important, and it sets it sends a very strong message to all the organization employees, and it encourages people and develop their careers, and it gives them access to management and to board members. So I don't believe people should be in the castle.
Yes,
they should
agree.
go and
I agree.
and deal with the youngers.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Thank you so much. So now it's the Q&A session. So
We were short.
straightforward to the point. Yeah, but can we have Mike?
There's nobody here. Oh.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that nice information.
Where's the slides?
Yes, definitely change are coming and change are happening, and we have to adapt. And I do agree with Amina that tone at the top is very important, and it's create the path. Saying this and talking about the board members and talking about the new technology and the ethics policy and the platform that we need to use to have it all in the same platform. How can we, from your experience, how can we encourage board members to adapt also? Because I mean, as a board member in many companies, and lots of board members think that they are gods, that they know everything, that GRC or the head of GRC or the head of compliance shouldn't come and tell them what they need to do, because they know what they need to do. So how can we encourage them to understand that there's something called corporate governance manual and they have to follow? There's something called governance platform that they have to communicate with, they have to use, they have to adapt to, so they can make their life easier, and also our life easier as a head of GRC. Thank you.
So,
From my experience, صراحة, I have a very actively involved board. They ask us for having proper governance. They encourage and they support. Having a well-diversified, experienced board with the right composition will answer this. And if you do not, I think you should in the annual training plan for the board, embed a module or two on the regulatory and governance and compliance and internal audit and risk and everything that you need to raise their awareness, address the areas for development for the board. But if you have chosen the right caliber from the first place, they will be encouraging you to do so.
طيب, may I add something to Amina's commentary? Actually, as per the new corporate governance banking regulations that were recently released, one of the main roles of the corporate governance committee is to ensure proper induction for all board members. And I believe this goes beyond banks, companies as well. And to identify the annual training, professional training for board members and the curriculum for each training. So, and then they send on an annual basis to all, to the board with the approved annual training plan for the board, training needs. Additionally, within the board annual board assessment, some open questions set recommendations. For instance, some of the board members will need to have more professional certification on sustainability, on corporate governance. Foreign board members may need to have be more acquainted with local regulations. So as a board secretary role, it's my role to gather all these recommendations and send them back to as part of the governance committee recommendations.
Perfect.
Mr. Ihab had the question.
I think that it's very important that the board members should communicate with different level in the institute itself or in the company itself, because this kind of communication put the essence and encourage the innovation and the new ideas that could be raised from the staff themselves. I mean, it shouldn't be in the silos. As a board member, they should communicate. I think you and me, we
Coming from the same school.
Yeah, exactly.
One comment for you as well is a lot of times when you're dealing with politically sensitive matters, you know, you have these outsized egos or his or her excellencies on boards. In those sensitive situations, one way that I've done is to kick it out to a third party. So have an independent board assessment done, right?
Yeah, we do it.
Put that into the bylaws as an annual or biannual requirement. That way, you don't receive personal flack for any comments that may not be so kind to, you know, to those guys who think they know it all. So, you know, we have to be astute in doing that. Sometimes a recommendation from you will not be well received. But if it's by a such and such third party, well reputed, hey, it's not my comment, it's his, you know, this report. There's more receptivity in that respect.
You should do it, best practice says you should do it every 3 years by an external independent consultant.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I noticed this agreement about the tone at the top and inclusive approach of middle management and first line and so on. And I believe that maybe Amina means by tone at the top is the ensuring of the top management and the board to have this institutional approach because as I said yesterday, governance is practice. It's practice through all the organization. Maybe, yes, we sometimes create even department called governance, but to ensure this governance to be a practice, so this needs to tone at the top, and I fully agree about the tone of the top to ensure this institutional applying of all the rules and GRC and everything.
If you have the formula of having the tone at the top with an actively engaged board, you have the secret formula for success. You engage with the middle management, you engage with the frontliners, that's perfect.
So to be clear, though, I want to this is not a disagreement. I entirely agree. You cannot replace leadership. Leadership matters, right? In any, that goes without saying. It's a given. Leadership has always mattered, right? Now what, right? I'm talking about this, the next step. After leadership is done, now what? It's not enough to just say, the chairman of the board says ethics is important, and then he goes home.
That's
right?
why I said engage.
Yes,
Engage with them.
institutionalizing it through engaging middle management, through engaging the lowest levels of the organization. How much information is, how much visibility do we have as GRC professionals of information coming from the ground up? Sometimes we're suffocated by the standards that we have developed for the last, decades, but those standards are not taking into consideration the new developments that are coming, right? They are looking backwards, they're fixed. We have to be a little bit creative and add to those existing standards and then pressure test. Do I have enough visibility on middle management? What are the KPIs that I have that are directly come from where I would be able to ascertain, is middle management well-equipped or are they sensitized on these topics? How do you make that independent assessment if you don't have metrics to be able to take that information? Or even, again, as I said, groove on the ground, the peripheral services of the company. So every company that I have been head of compliance at have always made sure to, for example, go to the warehouse, train the blue-collar staff in their own language, for example, when they're in different countries, ensuring that we are tailoring the programs. We don't ignore any employee in the company. We consider if you're working for this company, you will receive some sort of sensitivity training awareness about what are the core principles. We may not go down into the great detail, but it's one holistic organism. It's not an organism that simply is run, from the top down, and then everyone kind of just, falls to the wayside.
So Tomell, let me further elaborate on this. Without the buy-in of the board who approve all the compliance code of conduct policies, these policies will not come from up to down. So policies are implemented into procedures, controls, code of conduct being signed by all staff, and then you cascade it down with more awareness and training, embedding the culture of ethics, embedding the ethics or the values in action into the KPI. So it's not a single thing, it's a formula that has interdependencies. So this is how you have the values in action across a whole organization.
Exactly.
Any more questions? Okay, so to conclude, we have one more question, last question for all the panelists team. So my question to you is that I want each one of you to give one piece of advice to whether the organization or the GRC professionals regarding the ethics governance within the digital era. Amina.
Okay, if I could give one piece of advice, it would be to prioritize transparency and accountability. In the increasingly complex digital landscape we are living on today, stakeholders, all stakeholders, regulators, consumer, staff, and the broader community, they demand clarity about how decisions are made and how the data is being used. So transparency, and like Tomell was just saying, you have to be transparent from top down and the way back down top. If you are transparent, people will have awareness, will be more understanding of what is the organizational goals, and you will start building trust with all related stakeholders. And if you build the trust, believe me, reaching the organizational goals will be much easy. And another advice is like Yahya was saying yesterday, organization, they need to heavily invest in learning and training. We keep saying machine learning. We need to focus on human learning.
Yes.
We created a monster called
Yes.
technology and AI and everything that I do not understand because I'm not a tech, like I said. But we need to ensure that we invest massively in learning and awareness, learning and awareness, learning and awareness of human, so we ensure that this technology that we created as human beings does not supersede us one day, and that always the human oversight and human dominance remains, and science fiction movies does not become the reality of our world
anymore.
and we get
coming
controlled
real.
by machines. So we always need to stay ahead of the technology we created, because they self-develop themselves or itself or herself. I don't know what it is called, like Yasmine was saying yesterday in his workshop, but we have to be ahead and way ahead.
True. Thank you, Amina, for
Thank
the
you.
great advice. Appreciate. Tomell?
Yeah, I think the GRC world, we are at a very critical moment where we have unprecedented technologies that could effectively do a lot of our work in theory, right, that we do, maybe equal or better to ourselves. And then combined, we're faced with a world which has been completely reticent in terms of the corruption endemic. Transparency International just released their latest CPI index, and it finds a world completely collapsing in its efforts to combat corruption, which is going to affect all of us, right? And the President of the United States just openly announced that the U.S. Department of Justice is no longer going to enforce
he abolished the
anti-corruption laws for American companies. And he said, why should American companies be penalized if other folks are also making these corrupt and bribes and payments? So we are being pressed, our industry is being pressed from both sides. We have a collapse of ethics, right? Governments are not enforcing they're failing in their duties to enforce meaningful anti-corruption directives, and this is across the world. People don't know, a lot of folks don't know. India, for example, I was shocked to find India, the 6th largest economy in the world, they don't even have a law that bans bribery of foreign officials. They don't even have a law. China, which is the 2nd largest economy in the world, they are rated, I think, 80 or 90 out of 160 countries in terms of enforcing corruption. They're completely amiss. So we are saturated in a commercial context, which is now sliding towards unethics. And then on the other hand, we have an accelerated technology, which is increasingly doing our jobs. So what can we do in that context? And my view is we have to adapt. We have to make ourselves relevant in this new economy by not just paying attention to risk and these things, but making ourselves part of the discussion of where the business is going. Are you integrated? Does the company see you as a business partner? Or do they simply just see you as a risk person, stay in your lane? Are you invited to the discussions about where the company is going? How ingrained are you into those conversations? Are you considered a business partner? Every time I step into a new role, I always look at my capacity as being a business partner. What ways can I add value to the discussion beyond just traditional checks and balances, the checking of the scorecard, and talk about how to operationalize, how to mitigate the issues, create efficiencies, reduce the opportunities for wrongful things to occur in the company. So in that way, I'm positioning myself as a value creator over and beyond just my sort of GRC hat. And ensuring that I'm included, making the case for myself to be included in those discussions, right? Because if we don't make our own case, they're not going to include us in those discussions. They're going to leave us in our silo. They'll be happy. Everyone will be happy. You can go home. But I think not taking if we don't take those efforts, we're not reading the room right. And we will quickly find ourselves in an evolved industry that we are not able to recognize if we don't really, really try to contextualize ourselves in this new economy. So that would be my recommendation.
I just want to comment on one thing you said, Tomell. The United States abolishing the ABC Act. This proves what my point of view, that you now bribery and corruption, according to the laws and regulation, won't be unlawful. But does it make it okay to take a bribery, to be corrupt? So ethics and governance,
Absolutely.
they go together like a horse and carriage, not love and marriage anymore. It's ethics and governance.
Yes, that's
so
right.
it typically proves my point of view that you cannot separate one from the other.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you, Tomell. Yasmine, if you can give us
So
this.
now my mission is very hard after my colleagues have said it all. So I do echo Amina and Tomell in everything. And I believe GRC is not a destination. It's a journey. So as technology evolves, so does regulations, risks, and ethical concerns. And organizations, they have to move beyond reactive compliance into more proactive, agile, and implement technology-driven governance frameworks. Also, the key to success is to embed the GRC into our DNA and use it as a strategic enabler rather than a showstopper or regulatory burden. So I believe organizations that embrace trust, transparency, resilience into the digital transformations will not only survive, but they will also thrive in the future. So thank you.
Thank you so much,
Yes,
Yasmine,
well
for
said.
the great recommendation and advice. This is the end of the panel. I would like to thank Amina, Tomell, and Yasmine for the great discussion, and I would like to thank you all for having us here with you. Thank you so much.